IMD Corporate's business series. I am Adriana Balmus, and I am joined once again by Alexander Kirichenko, partner with IMD Corporate and an expert in corporate and commercial law. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Adriana.
In our last episode, we discussed the essential legal documents every business should have in place. Today, we are moving forward to discuss about navigating regulatory compliance matters that you should consider.
Yes, but it's important to bear in mind that whilst we will discuss the general regulatory requirements, your particular business needs may be considerably more extensive. And whilst I hope this serves as a good foundation of knowledge, I would encourage you to seek legal advice on the particular needs of your specific business in your particular industry.
So, what are the general regulatory requirements that most of the businesses will need to keep in mind?
Yes, of course. Well, let's start with tax registration. Now, as well as being registered with Companies House, a private limited company will also need to make sure that it is registered with HMRC. And it will need to submit annual tax returns, what's corporation tax, amongst others. Now, as soon as the company is registered with Companies House, unless it is registered as a dormant company, the company will obtain a unique taxpayer reference number that will automatically be registered with HMRC. What you won't get automatically is a VAT number. And this is very important. And as you will have to register for VAT with HMRC if your turnover exceeds £85,000 in the previous 12 months. Now, it's important to bear in mind that this applies retrospectively, which means that if in the past 12 months your turnover exceeded 85,000, you will be liable for VAT, whether that has been charged to your customers or not. And if you have failed to charge VAT to your customers, which you cannot do unless you have registered for VAT, then you will be substantially out of pocket. Now, another critical consideration is GDPR compliance, i.e. processing personal data, be it of customers or employees. Critically, you need to make sure that your company is registered with the Information Commissioner's Office. This process is very straightforward, but it's crucial. You will also need to make sure that you're familiar with the requirements of the UK GDPR and be aware of the key principles of processing of personal data, including lawfulness, transparency, data minimization, and security, as well as being aware of the data subject's rights, such as rights to data access, correction, and deletion of their data. As we have mentioned in our previous podcast, GDPR documents being essential legal documents, this will be a good opportunity for the company to obtain legal advice on GDPR requirements generally when implementing those policies and documents. Now, there are significant penalties for non-compliance, and in the event that a data breach occurs, it will be critical to show that you have adequate data protections in place. It should be borne in mind that you are obligated to report a data breach to the Information Commissioner's Office within 72 hours, and you will also be obligated to inform the data subjects. There are also health and safety considerations. It is a legal requirement to undertake a risk assessment at your premises and have adequate health and safety policies and accident reporting in place. Now, this is relevant even if you have small premises or in some instances, even in remote working. Failure to comply can result in prosecutions by the Health and Safety Executive, as well as potential refusal of cover by any business insurance that you have in place. Which now brings me on to insurance requirements. Now, from the point of view of insurance, you will need to make sure that you have the right cover in place. If you are employing any employees, you must have employers' liability insurance to the adequate level, which is currently £5 million. If you fail to do so, you could be fined up to £2,500 per day that you're not properly insured. In addition, you will of course be running a substantial risk if your employee is injured at work. Now, whilst this is not a legal requirement, it would also be critical in my view to have public liability insurance in place, or product liability insurance, depending on the type of business, which will protect you against any injury to persons or property damage which may be caused by your employees or your product. Now, the damage to members of the public could be extensive, and as such, it simply does not appear to be worth the risk not having an adequate cover in place. Finally, depending on your industry, you may need to have professional indemnity insurance in place, as this is a requirement in some industries. Finally, again briefly, you need to make sure that your business complies with various anti-bribery, anti-slavery, and anti-money laundering regulations, and that you have adequate policies in place from this perspective. This could be a particular requirement when trading with certain bodies, such as public bodies.
What about any industry-specific regulatory requirements?
As well, let's have a look at some potential industries and how this could impact. So if you look from the point of view of technology startups, of particular importance will again be compliance with GDPR as well as cybersecurity. You will also need to make sure that your intellectual property does not breach any third-party intellectual property rights. And sufficient due diligence will need to take place for this to occur. In addition, when operating in a specific industry, from a technology perspective, such as healthcare or finance, you should obtain advice as to any licenses or permissions that you may need to have in place. Whilst it's not a regulatory requirement, it is also important to ensure that you have protected your intellectual property, whether ensuring that copyright for the code vests in the company, or that your patent or trademark is capable of and is being or has been registered in your name, in your company's name. Now, if we look at healthcare, for example, you will again need to pay heed to GDPR, as you will be likely processing sensitive personal data, which brings additional layer of protection under GDPR. In addition, medical device regulations must be consulted, as registration may be required with a HMRC for any physical or indeed a software device that may be defined as a medical device. It's always best to consult a regulatory lawyer if you're not sure whether your software in particular may fall under the definition, however loosely it may be, of a medical device. Finally, you may also need to be registered with the CQC or the GMC and comply with their specific requirements, which may include the requirement to have one of your directors as a licensed by them individual. If you look at financial startups, you will need to pay substantial attention and be well versed in KYC and AML legislation to ensure that all of your processes are fully compliant on these fronts. You may also have minimum capital requirements, especially if you intend to trade as an investment company. Now, there are further specific FCA requirements to consider, which you need to ensure that you complied with, including contractually with your customers, especially those that are consumers. Finally, you may need to be authorized or registered with the FCA, depending on the exact nature of your business, and most likely yes and no.
While we have tried to be comprehensive, your business is unique and You will need tailored advice to ensure that you are complying with your obligations from day one and are keeping up with ongoing compliance obligations. Thank you, Alexander. This concludes our episode on regulatory compliance. We hope this discussion has provided a foundational understanding of the requirements to keep your business compliant and protected. In our next session, we will explore intellectual property protections, a critical topic for safeguarding your company's innovations and assets. To stay updated with more insights, follow us on social media and visit our website. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.